Do you guys know the lore of the Edmonton venue that scammed hundreds of couples? There was a venue in Edmonton who offered a really beautiful background for your wedding. So it was kind of industrial style. It had exposed brick. They sold themselves as an all-inclusive venue. And so lots of people obviously booked it. And usually when you book a venue, you don't really have to do anything for a while because you have to plan or whatever. You have to do everything else. And then the closer they got to their wedding date, they started seeing some red flags. Like the venue that they booked, that people were not responding to them. Or if they booked a venue tour, nobody would show up. Or they kept asking for deposits, but then didn't uphold their promises or anything like that. And yeah, so turns out this wedding venue ended up scamming hundreds of people of thousands of dollars.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That would happen.
And so there's a lot of ongoing lawsuits right now against the owner of this venue. There was a lot of back and forth promises for refunds and all that kind of stuff. But still, I don't think it's resolved. I think it's actually still ongoing.
I did see a brief post on Facebook about it. But I didn't know it was an actual, it was a real thing going on.
Yeah, I thought it was only the one-off couple that was complaining about it.
No.
But you're saying all of the couples that have booked
Not all, but a good number.
in recent years or in the past, total? Because they were somewhat new.
They were. But
So in the beginning, were they already like that?
I'm not sure if they were like that from the beginning, but there's a whole Facebook group with hundreds of members who
That is so sad.
Fell
I remember
victim to
this
this.
venue being very, very
Sought
popular,
after.
And
It was a
very
sought-after
popular venue, a venue that's usually fully booked,
Yeah.
well in advance.
as venues are, usually the good
That's-
ones are booked
that's too
quickly. But anyway, this podcast episode is about venues. Welcome back to Belles and Banter. We have Justine back with us after taking a bit of a hiatus last week because she was sick. Hi, I'm Joy. This is Justine, and this is Jules, and we are the Wedding Belles. We are professional event and wedding planners in Edmonton, Alberta. And today's episode is going to be all about venues. Yeah.
Venues!
So previously, we said that for your budget, 50% of it is going to be allotted to your reception and your ceremony, and your venue is a big chunk of that. So choosing your venue is a very important step for your wedding planning process, and with the lore, the Edmonton lore of venues that might not have the best interest for you at heart. It's really important that you do your market research about them too. So obviously your venue is going to dictate things like your budget, how many people you can actually invite, sometimes the types of vendors you can actually hire, your vibe, of course. Your venue is going to determine kind of the logistical flow of your wedding. And yeah, there's a lot of wedding decisions that you can't really make until you've booked your venue. And a common mistake that we've seen for couples is falling in love with a space before they even get any of these kind of things in check. Have we ever had a wedding that was extremely chaotic because of the venue?
Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't say it was for this specific one. It wasn't the venue itself. It was more of the staff. Is that considered venue?
Oh, yes.
I guess
So
so.
the venue staff.
Well, yes. So it's just with this one specifically, a lot of miscommunication, a lot of things that were promised that were not, what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't
Following through.
followed through. Is that the word I'm looking for? Follow through. And there was a lot of chaos in that because we were the middle person, I remember, for all the things that came up and that stuff, right? I don't remember exactly remember all the things that were crazy, but
Yeah, I remember now another venue that we had also worked with a client where communication was probably the hardest thing. There was either turnover with the staff or just in general, the receiving end, the venue side, they were saying one thing and then again, not following through with whatever they were saying. So we always have to constantly remind them, oh, you said you were going to do this. Oh, you're going to do this. And then on the day itself, things like certain things that the couples had requested and which were communicated to the venue were just not completed as it was requested.
So that's why it's really important to have everything written down. Whereas like email is really a handy tool to use, because if things were promised verbally over the phone and it doesn't happen on the day of or whenever it is that needs to take place, it's you need to have everything written down nowadays.
Yeah, and that too. And like, if you think about it, like, luckily for the couples we had, we were the middleman. So we were there to kind of try to do the most damage control we can with what the venue was not capable of performing. But in cases where, say, it was just a couple, that's a lot of stress that's going to be going down just straight to them or the wedding party, trying to, pick up the pieces that they can and make it work. So yes, we've dealt with some great venues, but we've also dealt with some of the, I would say, more challenging, maybe less experienced staff vendors or venues. Yeah. I also wanted to note, though, with these venues, I think one of the perks, I know I always feel like I'm selling wedding planners, but we know things. We know things that sometimes couples who are booking these venues don't know. So generally speaking, like these venues that we've worked with, we were not involved in that booking process. That's kind of like a disclaimer, really. It sounds like a disclaimer. We were not involved in the booking process of these venues. And I think, if you go through a wedding planner, like even from booking your venue, like at that stage, a lot of wedding planners have their good lists and their bad lists. And generally speaking, if a venue is on their bad list, they're not even going to recommend it, right? And these are all, of course, just for professional purposes, will never be disclosed up front. So that's another good thing about having a planner is there's just some, I guess, industry knowledge that may not be passed along to the regular person.
And just past experiences that have happened, right? So
the lore.
It's history.
Yeah.
Anyway, but pretend a couple didn't have a planner. What should they know before even booking a venue tour?
What should they know? How much they want to spend? Budget. We already talked about that.
Of course, budget.
The space, the amount of
space they need.
The amount of guests that you are going to invite, and the spacing that.
Yeah, and something to consider too, right? Because like we've had weddings where we've had huge dance productions during the reception. So if a venue can hold, say, 120 people maximum seated, if you need a dance floor to accommodate a huge performance of any kind of dance, any dance show, you have to take that into consideration. So then 120 is probably not going to fit anymore, right? So that's, space requirements, seat requirements, even like, if you're booking a venue indoors, outdoors, knowing if you are okay with a backup that's indoors or if you're just going to wing it.
Always have a backup.
So with the indoors, outdoors, also figuring out what month or season you're getting married to. Location. So
if you want to book, if it's a location that your guests will need to commute to,
right,
what transportation they'll need, because if you're going to go into some rural small town where lots of people don't live, right, you have to consider that they're going to either be driving or you'll need to provide transportation for them.
Yeah, so just to sum up, that budget range is, again, we've harped on budget every single episode since we started this podcast. Guest range, a guest count range, desired season or month, whether you're indoor or outdoor, and what kind of backup plans you might need, and then the location to figure out things like travel for your guests, hotel blocks if you need to book any hotels, transport, say you're going to have a really nice rowdy night, maybe a shuttle service or something like that. All of these things are things that you have to consider before you even book a tour to a venue, because some venues won't even have these options. Like there's a lot of different types of venues that you guys can book, obviously. So what kind of venues have we worked with that you liked or didn't like? What kind of venues are there?
Well, I guess in terms of like the top end, like you're looking at hotel ballrooms or any like all inclusive, like golf club venues. And then you've got something on the, the cheaper side, like halls, which are more DIY. and everything in between, really, like different locations or just really unique spaces that could also be used, like art galleries, museums, gardens.
Julien's is naming it everything.
I think I got everything.
She's
It's a
named
test.
everything.
I need to get 100%.
She didn't get 100%.
Damn it. What did I miss?
Yeah, so there are the traditional venues that you guys can look at, things like hotel ballrooms, banquet halls, but there's also some non-traditional options that you guys can choose from. You could do things like barns, campgrounds. You could do things like gardens. Like
I mentioned gardens.
I guess so you did. Sorry. She mentioned gardens.
What about like destination weddings?
Yes, destination weddings. And all of these things would apply to destination weddings as well. Museums, art galleries, like you said. You could even do things like private estates. So like on Airbnb, as long as you ask permission from the host, you can actually host events at your Airbnb as well. You could also do restaurants. So if you like the look of a certain restaurant, a lot of them do offer bookings, but the only thing is you usually have to book the entire place. You have to buy out their Saturday night, basically. So lots of different places that you can look at. I recently saw a post online. A bookstore held a wedding, and I'm a bookworm, but it was like the cutest thing. And if I could get married again, a bookstore or a book,
maybe for
like
your
a
wedding anniversary,
like a library. Oh, that would be so cute. But anyway, all of these types of venues are things that you could consider when you are shopping for your venue. And this is not even an extensive list. Like if you're creative, you could probably make anything work. There's always options, right? So I also wanted to talk about all-inclusive versus blank slates and the differences between them. So when we say all-inclusive, we mean things like hotel ballrooms, catering is offered, all that kind of stuff. Blank slate, halls, people's backyards, that kind of thing, where you literally need to buy
and bring everything in.
Build from the ground up.
Yeah.
And,
so
some tented weddings. Tented weddings are.
So if you are considering an all-inclusive, what are some pros and cons?
Pros is convenience, right? Like especially if it's like a hotel ballroom, you don't even have to worry about, accommodations for your guests if they are flying in, if they want to stay there. But yeah, they provide staffing, and then they have, like food provided, drinks provided, unless you do corkage. But generally speaking, you can have that convenience and then just not have to worry about like a big chunk of your reception, really.
The cons, though, is that I think we've talked about this in other podcasts, or maybe our first or second podcast, is sometimes it's not all inclusive as you think it is. You really have to read the fine details of what is included and what's not, and what you have to pay additionally for versus not.
That's true,
right? So maybe those are the cons. I don't know what other cons are there, actually.
Some hotels charge, for example, to cut cakes.
Yes. There's a cake cutting fee.
Yeah.
There's always a cake cutting fee. And then on top of that, like usually, at least for most all-inclusive places, there's a minimum spend. So you have to spend, say, minimum $20,000 just on food and beverages on top of the rental of the space. So it actually could add up quite quickly. But again, you're paying for the convenience of having it staffed. But generally speaking, the staff is very experienced in that field, so you don't really have too many concerns.
That is still kind of a con for me, though, is that because these are really well-established venues, often they have a very particular way of doing something. So if you're a non-traditional couple, or you're trying to do things that are a little off the beaten path or something like that, an all-inclusive could feel very restrictive.
That is true. We had one where the couple wanted to do like a tea ceremony, and they couldn't even bring their own tea because the venue specifically wanted to provide all the food and beverages, just due to their own liability, I'm assuming.
Food safety.
Yeah, food safety and stuff. So they didn't even want them to be consuming any other beverage outside of what was provided by them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right.
Okay, let's spin the table. What about pros for a blank slate?
It is a blank slate. You could do anything.
You control everything.
Yes, you control everything. And it's also generally cheap, right? So you can control everything from lighting to what structures you want there if you need structure. Your food choices, again, allowing you to kind of save on costs because you don't have a minimum spend. You just book a caterer.
And the decor too.
Yeah,
You can do whatever you want in that space. Of course, there's certain rules for every place that you book, but
no candles.
It's more flexible. It's definitely more flexible than an all-inclusive.
All right. What about the cons?
Well, the cons is hard work.
It's more work. There's more there's more vendors usually required. Greg, more for you to coordinate.
Yes, yeah. And especially like a tented wedding, for example, you have to think about where are your guests and you, including yourselves, where are you gonna use the washroom? Where do you go potty?
Yeah. Where's the outhouse?
Yeah, you just pretty much have to build from the ground up and have backups, like especially if you're having a tented outdoor backyard wedding.
Tented weddings are probably the hardest wedding.
Ones.
You literally have to get a potty vendor.
Yes.
There are potty vendors for weddings. So if you're considering a tented wedding, there's a lot more logistics.
When it's done right, though, it's beautiful. Absolutely amazing. It just needs to have a lot of work first.
Yeah, lots and lots of work for the blank slate for sure. But we do love how flexible it is, and you can really mold it to what you guys want. Anyway, we just gave you a load of information there. Do you have any tips for couples who might be debating between any of these?
Not really. I think it just comes down to like time or money again, right? Like venue choice kind of goes down with that. Like, of course, if you have a specific look you're going for, then go for it. But when it comes to like picking, say you're down to picking one that's more DIY versus one that's more all-inclusive, then yeah, that's the only thing you really have to consider is time versus money.
My tip is to definitely think, okay, do you want to prioritize your guests and what your guest experience is going to be like, or do you want to prioritize what you want as a couple? Because those two could be different things. So
like customization wise?
Yeah, like venue wise. What would you want as guests to experience at your wedding? Do you want them to be in an outdoor space versus you as a couple? Maybe you just want a destination wedding and not have to do any of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I guess my tip would be before you start looking or anything like that is again to communicate with each other and just rank your non-negotiables and top priorities before you even go look, because if you go look at something, it's kind of like buying a house. Like if you go and look at a house and you're not ready to buy or you don't have it in your budget yet and you fall in love with that house, you're going to be heartbroken.
Yeah.
So you just want to make sure that you are very prepared before you even start shopping around, because window shopping is great and all, but then if you're window shopping and then this venue is twice your budget.
That is true. Have your budget ready, or like at least know how much you're willing to spend.
Okay, so you're at your venue tour now. What are we paying attention to? What are you looking for when you're at this tour?
Cleanliness. Like that's just me, but I would be looking at overall cleanliness, specifically the bathrooms. I am a stickler for clean bathrooms. So one of the places I will be looking at when I look at any venue is, are the bathrooms maintained and clean? Are they flushing? Are all the taps working? Is there hot and cold water? Like, I'm not even joking. I check it. Is that crazy? Maybe. But for me, like if my guests can't be sanitary at our wedding, that's kind of a red flag. That's just my thought.
My thing is the space. So how a venue utilizes their space. So if they have a storage room that you can put your stuff in, and feel free to ask, the person that's touring you at the venue, feel free to ask, can I take a peek inside these little hidden doors and hidden closets? And it'll tell you a lot.
Yeah, I think too, looking at the layout and the floor plan, right? Because it also gives you an idea of like how the flow of the party is going to be. Like you can start envisioning where's going to be the head table or the sweetheart table. Where are the guests going to sit? Where's the first dance going to happen? Like kind of like picture like where those events would take place in that venue. And that would probably help you envision if this is a good space or not too.
In my tip, it's a very overwhelming amount of time, or sorry, it's a very
Small,
short
yeah.
amount of time that you're there for that venue tour. So I would suggest having questions already written down in advance, because it can be very overwhelming in the amount of time that you have there touring the venue. So
Oh no, I agree with everything
yeah.
you guys said. One thing that I look out for when touring a venue is whether it's specifically a tour day. Does that make sense?
Oh,
yes,
so there's
yes, yes.
multiple couples looking
Yeah,
versus
so when
individual.
because when there's many couples looking, then the person who's touring you is usually spread pretty thin, and they might not be able to give you the attention that you deserve. And then not only that, but usually on days like this, it's obviously they want to give you the best possible impression of their venue. So they might have cleaned the bathrooms really nice that day, but normally it's not like that or something.
That's true.
So I think if you do go to a tour and it's one of those days where it's an open house, ask for pictures of real weddings there that actually occurred. And even better, if you can contact those couples, kind of like a reference, like a renter's reference, if you could do that, it's even better.
That's true, because I remember we did that one venue tour, and it was pretty much a styled shoot. Like, oh, this is what the layout of the tables would look like here, 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 which is great. It's gorgeous, but is that real? Is that realistic? So,
Yeah.
I will say that it is nice to see a venue when it's like full
Done up,
and
yeah.
decorated, because obviously that's what it's going to look like on your actual wedding day versus empty dregs of tables just torn apart and stuff. But just be careful about that, because it's a lot easier to hide things when your venue is full, I guess, if for lack of a better word. So yeah, just watch out for that too. I did like what you said about layout and flow. Looking at the layout of a venue can give you an idea of how your guests are going to flow through the evening, for example. So if you're having the ceremony at the same venue, where are they going to go for cocktail hour? And after cocktail hour, where are they going to go for reception? If there's only one door to all of these places, or there's no space for all of these other events that might be occurring for your wedding, these bottlenecks, they're an important logistical step, or they can be logistical nightmares as well. Things like accessibility too, if it matters to your guests. Stairs, are there elevators for your guests who might need them for you to load in and out your decorations? Even are the hallways really narrow? If there was a fire alarm, is it going to be a fire hazard? I don't know, all of these things. If you're having your venue, or if you're having your reception and ceremony in different places, how far are they? If it's 3 hours away, but there's only 2 hours between your ceremony and your reception, might have to reconsider some things, right? So I liked your point of layout and flow. Other things that I don't know if you guys, I can't remember now if you mentioned it. Getting ready spaces. If the venue has that, it can be very,
if you want it,
if you want it as well, it could be really handy to, instead of trying to figure out where all of your bridesmaids, groomsmen are going to come and make a mess of your place basically while they're getting ready. Maybe they have like a specific area that they can go in this hotel, an all-inclusive venue, right? That you can go to. All of those kinds of things are what I would be paying attention to. And I did like Justine's point. Ask lots of questions. Lots and lots of questions. There's no dumb question, because you really want to make sure that your money and your investment is being spent wisely, right?
yeah.
And
I
don't just let the venue person touring answer the question on the spot. I almost ask, can you show me, or can I see this? It's good to get a visual of everything. That's what the tour is for. Sorry, go ahead.
I think one thing to also remember, and maybe it was just my experience, but these people who are showing you the venue are pretty much like salespeople. So their interest is for you to book the space. So just go in there with that kind of mindset that like they're trying to sell you a car. So they'll only show you the best things. They'll tell you about the best things, but they won't necessarily tell you about the bad things about it. So just ask a lot of questions and kind of get the vibe from them too. Because generally, like if they are the salesperson, they'll probably be very friendly, but also like find out who is going to be the banquet manager or the main contact that you're going to be working with, and try to get a vibe on how responsive and communicative they are with you before you even decide to book.
Ooh, this brings me to my next section I want to talk about.
Is it spicy question?
No, I don't have spicy questions. I figured there's enough spice. There's enough spice in the world already. But green flags versus red flags. What are some signs that a venue, let's stay positive first. What are some signs that a venue is a good choice for you? So yes, communication you just mentioned.
That's huge.
Yeah, that
That's
one's
huge.
big.
Communication, and I think just overall, like, experience of the staff. Like, one of the questions you could be asking is, how long has this banquet manager been working at this venue? Because that'll tell you a lot about how much they know about the space. And generally speaking, like, if they've been there a long time, A, they love their job, and B, they love the business, right? So they're staying because they like working for them. So that's already a good thing to see.
Weddings are hard. They're very stressful.
Very hard. And these banquet managers are pretty much your, like, secondhand person on your wedding day. And it's our they're our main contact, generally speaking, when we're working with weddings too. So yeah, just get a good vibe from them. And if you got a good vibe and, like, you can tell they're experienced, that's a great thing.
Yeah, for the communication, things I looked out for when I was booking my wedding venue was clear responses. You know, if they're trying to like skirt around the questions I asked, because I'm type A, right? So I asked a ton of questions. Like if they're not answering me directly, I was a little bit weirded out about that. One thing I look for from venues is how transparent they are for prices as well. Like if they're going to suddenly launch a whole spiel on these hidden costs that they didn't initially tell me about, be careful. Oh wait, we're trying to stay positive here. So yeah, what you should look for is prompt and clear responses, how transparent they are for their prices, if they're willing to answer all of your questions, no matter how annoying you are, like I was to my venue.
And show them to you.
Yeah.
Right? With all these questions and all the answers, like
Yes.
I said.
Yeah. So all communication and professionalism, that is the first green flag that you should look for at a venue. Another one that I would say is how much they're willing to problem solve with you. Does that make sense? Like whether they talk about their backup plans for the weather. If a venue is an outdoors one, they are aware, especially where we live, that weather is unpredictable. Do they communicate that with you right away? Or is it kind of just like, meh, if it happens, it happens, right? Yeah, so if they're willing to problem solve with you and kind of brainstorm with you, that's a good sign to me. What else do you think, Hanang?
I don't know what else, to be honest. Just said it already. What else is there?
I think, going back to the communication, just everything in writing. Writing. Prices, writing. Nothing to be told verbally.
Yeah. Green flags is also like the cleanliness of the space, like you said, and even in those little hidden storage rooms or hidden doors, if it is clean in there, that's a green flag already. And yeah, I think for me it's storage is a big thing, and also like getting ready spaces, as long as they have those two things. You need a space to relax in the midst of all the chaos on your wedding day, right?
I agree. Another thing that I really like to see when interviewing a venue is they don't overpromise me anything. You know, if I'm like, I want fireworks. If they honestly tell me, I don't think we could do fireworks. That is actually better in my books than somebody being like, oh yeah, we'll make fireworks happen no matter what. Right? So they don't really overpromise anything, and they explain any kind of limitations that they have for their venue. I think that's a green flag, because
it goes back down to transparency.
Yeah, it's just honest.
It's a big thing on communication still.
And
the vibe that you get with that person.
No, yeah,
and the staff that's there.
Yeah, especially with what Jules said about experience for the banquet manager. You know, if they share realistic timelines with you, if they're honest about, oh, I don't know if our staff can flip your venue in 5 minutes. I like that. That's a good thing, I think. Another kind of off-the-cuff response I would say is our green flag is if, you know, our other vendor buddies.
I was going to mention that.
Like this place.
Yes. Oh. That's what I was going to say. Like if the venue is like maybe, and vice versa, like if they are willing to share with you other vendors that they like to work with, you know that there's camaraderie in the industry for them, right? And that's a good sign.
Don't be afraid to ask. You're already booked vendors.
Yeah.
Right? Photographer, everybody.
Yep.
I think the best way that you can vet a venue, in my opinion, are asking couples who have used that venue for their event. So if you can join one of your local Facebook groups, weddings, planning, whatever, Reddit, whatever it might be, if you can ask people of their firsthand experience, that is the best way to determine whether or not a venue is right for you, I think.
Yeah, family members, friends,
Yeah.
other people that are getting married around the same time as you, they have done their research too.
All right, let's go to the negative side. I like the negative side. Let's talk about red flags. So earlier in the episode, we talked about the lore or the story of an Edmonton venue that really scammed a bunch of couples. And some of the red flags, or I think the biggest one that came to mind, was the communication one. Right? If they're not talking to you, if they're not sending you invoices, if they're not, that's a big red flag in my books. But what are some of the other ones that you guys have seen or have, do you think?
For sure, yeah, like the email responsiveness, right? Those are big red flags. If they're not responding for a week, 2 weeks, and keep having to follow up on the emails, what?
If they say, I'll give you a call.
Oh yes.
It's like, why don't you want to, like,
Why
you
don't you
email
just
them a
email-
question and then they'll email you back saying, when are you free for a call?
Come phone me. Yeah.
Is that a red flag? Is that like
It
a
is.
beige flag?
Oh, well, I
Yes,
don't
why
know.
can't you just answer the question?
Yeah.
If you have time,
Give me a direct
to
answer.
say, give me a phone call at this number at this time. That's the same amount of time as answering the question.
Yeah, if we
on
have
email.
clients who book vendors like that, I actually do, like, I will call them back, but I will summarize what we discussed in an email and send it back to them saying, this is what we discussed, so that it's on writing. Cause like, yes, some people, that's just their style, is that they like to verbally talk about it. But again, we need to be protecting our asses, our clients' asses, right? So we got to make sure it's all in writing to make sure it's clean. So yeah, that's a red flag. And yeah, communication for sure. Like even for us, when we're looking for a venue, if the venue doesn't even get back to you within a few days, and say they took like a few days to respond, that's already kind of weird, right? Because don't you want the business? You should be more responsive than that. So that's already kind of like, okay, they obviously don't seem to care.
Or it could just be because they're short staffed. They don't have enough staff in the venue. Right?
Yeah.
So and that's a red flag too.
Right. So like, yeah. So like if they're not responsive, sure. But if it continues to be an ongoing issue, just trying to sort out a venue, tour date, it's already kind of iffy. So
a big red flag for me is when you're on this venue tour and the person tells you all these things such as, oh, right, I didn't email you the 2026 pricing. It's actually changed now and it's now this price. And then nothing is written. Everything, like you said, is like everything is verbal. And then for some reason that wasn't communicated beforehand, which is odd. So that's a big red flag. I don't like that.
The surprise fees.
The surprise things that are said.
Or like
at a
mandatory things that like you must have security, but they only tell you like a week before your wedding.
Yeah. That contract, like you have to like really look at it
before signing
it.
Yeah.
Like even though you're sold based on your interactions and the space itself, read that contract very carefully and make sure that you have no concerns or questions with any of their clauses.
Yeah, sometimes people hide things in contracts, right? Like really harsh penalties if you miss your payment date.
Right. And even cancellation policies, especially COVID, right? I think a lot of venues and vendors in general have added clauses to their contracts now to allow for some flexibility when it comes to rescheduling an event. You know what? I came up with just a random thought about the venue. So one of the things that I think a lot of people don't consider when looking at a venue, especially when you're getting married, I would say in the shoulder months, so spring or fall, where the sun starts to set earlier, where is the sun? And if there are windows or like, where is the light coming in? Because that's going to affect your photography, videography, but also your guest experience. So say your dance floor is on the west side of this space, regardless if it's inside, outside, and there's windows coming in from the west, your guests are going to be staring at the sun setting, possibly blinding themselves while watching your first dance. So it's a weird thing to like think about, but it's weird that you'd have to even consider that.
Yeah, because even if there are those blinds, it's still it blares out.
We'll check if the venue, if it's an
Yeah.
inside venue, I would assume they would have blinds, especially for west facing windows. But it's just one of those things you don't really think about until you're like, oh, there's going to be a sunset that's happening here at this time during my timeline, or, you know, whatever. Like it depends on your program too, but yeah, just something to consider.
Actually, no, that's like if for example, a big part of your decoration is fairy lights, but you're getting married in the summer, it's still
And it's, yeah,
bright
what's
out.
the point?
It's still bright out until 11 p.m. in the summertime.
Yeah.
So maybe fairy lights, you could
don't need
allocate
it.
that budget to something else because it's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah,
won't
the
do-
guests, like the
yeah.
seasons and stuff.
So let's say you're out in the open on a golf course, right? Like, if it's a really hot day, will you consider that your guests will be sitting out with zero shade for the entirety of your ceremony, or maybe parts of your cocktail hour or whatever, right? So that's just, I guess a lot of it is, yes, it's beautiful, but just, I feel like I'm of the opinion that you should consider your guest comfort to some degree.
Yeah, we went to a wedding recently that was at a golf course, and the ceremony, like the couple and the bridesmaids, we were in the wedding party. We were all in the shade of a big tree, which was really pretty. But all the guests, they were out in the blaring sun because the ceremony was at 12 p.m.
High noon
It
too.
was hard. High noon, yeah. So, yeah, I guess consider where the sun is.
It's a weird statement. Where is the sun?
Okay, one question I find that couples forget to ask about venues is, for example, if you have like a backup space, if it's raining, what time does that decision need to be made on the day of? And not just the time, but also how many staff are there that will be available to change that last minute plan into your backup space instead? Because, for example, is there enough chairs so that the ceremony can be set up in the backup space versus a different amount of chairs for the reception space? You know what I'm talking about. I think that's a question that's forgotten.
Yeah, what's the rain plan? Does it need to be decided the day before? Because again, where we live, the weather is so unpredictable that it could change hour to hour.
And how last minute? Like
How
what
flexible is the
time?
venue?
What time would you want this decision to be made? Right?
Yeah, and a little bit more shallow. Is the rain plan alternative nice? Okay, so some rapid fire things that couples almost always forget to ask is, what's the rain plan? What happens if the venue banquet manager is sick? Right? What are the exact setup and tear down windows? They can come in and do whatever they need to do, set up, anything. Rehearsal. When can they do a rehearsal? Is it only the day before? Can they do it? When can they do it? What is their policy on candles, confetti, sparklers, rose petals, florals, fireworks, anything like that? Power availability, especially if you're in an outdoor venue. If the band or the DJ needs power, how do we get it to them? Is it just going to be daisy chained extension cords? Because that's a fire hazard, guys, okay? Don't do that. Who cleans up at the end of the night? Is it going to be the responsibility of the wedding planner, setup, teardown crew that you hired? Or is it going to be the venue staff that's going to be tearing down at the end of the night? What exactly are they going to do? Are they going to pack up all the linens you rented? Or is that your responsibility? What time is your cutoff at the end of the night? Is it 1 a.m. sharp? Or is it 1 a.m. music can stop, but you can still stay in the venue for another hour until 2 a.m.?
Some venues have different rules too. Like guests have to be out this time, and then vendors have to be out this time too.
Can you bring your own alcohol? It's another big one. And who serves it? Are there any fees associated? Corkage? Can you provide any of the fancy garnishes or anything like that, right? So basically what we're saying is that if you have any questions that affects your time, the money that you've spent, or the amount of stress that you're going to feel on your wedding day, ask it. Don't care if you're annoying. A good venue will answer you in writing. In writing. Okay, so the true cost of a venue, generally speaking, you're going to have some sort of rental fee. You might have a separate rental fee for both the ceremony and the reception if they have different spaces for it. There's going to be taxes and service charges if they're an all-inclusive, right? So for their staff, their wait staff, kitchens, that kind of thing, there's going to be that. There's going to be other staff like bartenders that you might have to hire, security that you might have to hire, things like that. Rentals, decor. Some all-inclusive places offer packages for decor that you could just rent on the spot so you don't have to worry about bringing anything in. That's going to be part of the cost of your venue. If you have overtime, like if you do decide to stay past a certain hour or make that available for your vendors, that might be a fee that venues decide to charge you. Insurance is one that you have to consider. Some venues require insurance, especially if there's alcohol. And that's usually from a third party. How much is insurance here? Usually for an event?
The last
$200,
time?
$200? It's not that
I
bad.
remember.
It's a couple $100.
It depends on the company that you book with too, right?
Yeah, so
Some
shop
venues
around.
get it for you.
Yeah, shop around. SoCan fees. So if you play music at your venue, sometimes they charge you something called, they charge you so that they can play music, copyrighted music at the venue itself. And then finally, parking. So for example, in our city, if you have a venue downtown, there's not a lot of free parking available downtown for our city. So some hotels or venues around there offer a package deal where you can rent out some of their whatever underground parking garage so your guests can park there for your wedding. So all of those things. And transportation. So some places offer like shuttles for the end of the night and stuff like that. So all of those things are the true cost of a venue. It's fine. So yeah, those are the true costs of your venue and kind of the things that you have to consider when you're booking one. I think what I would recommend, or we would recommend, is that you really need to pick a venue for you. We've said this so many times already, that the wedding it's not about anybody else. Yes, you should consider guest experience, but it's really about you. So it's got to match your lifestyle. Like if you're the type of couple that doesn't have time to DIY things, please don't look at a blank slate. That's not a good option for you. If you're the type of couple who loves being crafty together or not together, whatever, if you have like a craft team behind you, that's amazing. Maybe a blank slate could be something that you consider. That's definitely more important than the aesthetics of the venue, because you can really make it work for you. And again, at the end of the day, the pictures that you look at, you're not going to be looking at the walls of this venue. You're going to be looking at your loved ones and each other in these pictures. You're not even going to remember what the tables or the chairs or the floor look like, if I'm being honest. So make it work for your lifestyle, not for your aesthetic. Aesthetic is something that changes anyway, so don't do that. So it's about you. Yes, still prioritize your guest comfort. That is important as well. So don't sacrifice your guests for Instagrammable moments. The perfect venue is going to be the one that works for your wedding specifically. So don't compare to anybody else online. Don't book this wedding just because so and so celebrity had it. Find one that works for you. Okay? So, some final advice from us. Tour many venues before deciding on the one that you want.
Yeah, don't rush it. Really. This sets the tone for everything else.
Mm-hmm. And communicate with them via email well in advance prior to even booking that venue tour in the first place. You'll see if there's different names underneath. Don't even bother booking that venue tour. It'll be a waste of your time.
Yeah. Actually, before you tour, send out a bunch of emails.
Emailing them well in advance.
And have that conversation started with these people. And then tour what you feel good about after that.
And then, when you are ready for a tour, bring your planner, if you have one.
Clipboard.
Questions? Lots of questions.
Lots of questions. Or maybe a friend who is knowledgeable in this area or one that's not afraid to ask questions. You know, if you're like me, I have a fear of asking questions and talking to people, so I would bring my sisters.
Don't bring Joy along.
But anyway, bringing a support person, other than, of course, your partner, might be helpful because they can look at things a little bit more objectively. They're not as emotionally invested in things. So if they notice red flags that you don't because you're blinded by the beauty of a venue, then that would be very helpful. It sounds so lame and corny, but when you know, you like trust your gut. You know, like if your gut is saying, I don't really like this person, this person's given me bad jujus, trust it. You're probably right. But of course, verify with the contract also if the contract is good. Read it thoroughly. But trust your gut. I think that most people have pretty good intuition and can spot the red flags from a mile away. Just remember that even if a venue is beautiful, if it has bad flow or bad logistics, that's stressful. That will result in stress on your wedding day. And that is the last thing that we want for you guys. Okay? So that sums up our episode on venues and red flags and green flags you should look out for. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please rate our podcast. It really helps out the algorithm and helps us get this information out to whoever might need it. If you are watching on YouTube, hi.
Hi.
It's really weird to think that we're talking to a camera right now. But anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, maybe share it with a friend who needs this advice. Or if you need this advice, feel free to save it and watch it
Put in a
again.
comment if you have any other
Yeah.
questions.
If you have any comments, concerns, stories, please feel free to contact us.
We love the tea.
Yeah. Give us your tea.
We like coffee and tea.
I think that's like my dream for this podcast is to get people's tea and coffees and just like have episodes of people asking questions. Because I feel like that would be where we could help the most. Like these general things, I'm trying to plan them so that it kind of follows the flow after engagement season of what you would be planning for. But we want the tea. Give us the tea. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe. It really helps us out too. Thank you for watching or listening. Bye.
Bye.